Soulless Dead, Chapter 2, The Wake-Up Call. We left off, me realizing that things were about to get really bad, and I did not deal with them the way I thought I would. To be quite honest, I was overwhelmed. A lot of people would say on doomsday preppers and all this sort of thing that, oh, we'll be prepared, yeah. Well, once we get thrust into that, we'll know exactly what to do. You see all these people getting prepared for the worst case scenario, but I don't think they realize the psychological aspect to the situation. The shock that nothing is going to be normal. Things will never, ever, ever be the same. What you're about to jump into is just something that you can't possibly imagine. I know for myself, living in a safety net, being completely ignorant to what survival really meant, really, really stifled me. It was a stumbling block almost, you could say. It was just something so overwhelming. Here you have all these jagoffs talking about how they want the zombie apocalypse to happen, or they want this and this and this, or government collapse, or a civil war to happen. To those who say the zombie apocalypse would be great, how the heck do you prepare for a disease that could probably kill off the entire race? Is there a vaccine for that? Because if you have it, start distributing it now. And to those who want a government collapse, what happens when there's no law? What happens when a guy breaks into your house and kills your whole family and there's no one there to stop him? No one to call, no one to fall back on? And what happens if there is a civil war? Another bloody battle where men use whatever they can grab to kill brother, cousin, friend, or someone they never met, really never cared about. I find it very interesting and very laughable that we as people can do that to each other. We can talk a big talk and really say that we're this and that, put up that tough front, really put the balls on the table, so to speak, and like most guys, we do that. Younger guys especially. What we'll do is when we're around new guys, I saw this at a camp I went to, and a lot of the guys that just now meeting each other said how tough they were. They wanted to put up that cool front, that tough front. A peeing contest almost is what it was like. To see who could be the worst, the biggest and baddest. And I always found myself laughing because it was just so stupid. The more I think about it, I did it a couple times and it's quite shameful. But then again, you'd see those people that just kind of stay away from it, veer away from that kind of crap, but every guy's guilty of it at some point. We all want to be the biggest and the baddest, but we all secretly know that we're not. This could not be a more true analogy for what is going on right now. In this short period of time of me realizing and standing in the garage next to my brother and my father, moving around, and my little brothers and sisters, and stacking up boxes all around me, I just kind of stood there with my eyes open, jaw agape, like I just walked in on a hippopotamus making love to another. Gross. But I kind of just had to snap back and realize what was going on. I picked up a couple boxes and kind of fumbled them in my hands, trying to get my bearings again and start stacking the boxes in. We saw some cars speed by. It was a 25 mile an hour speed limit, and they were going at least 50. God forbid they hit somebody. Strangest thing, one of the trucks that I caught passing by had bullet holes in it. Some blood. Figured the guy ran someone over. Of course, in an anarchy situation, you get those nut jobs that run around wanting to kill people. You know, bikers, lawless people, gang members. There's nobody there to slap them on the wrist anymore. What's stopping them? What's to stop psychos from going even more psycho than normal? They don't have to be incognito anymore. They don't have to be the snake in the grass. They can just gobble and devour up as many people as they want. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of those lunatics skinning somebody and wearing their skin like a coat or using it like a hammock. It was almost like Saving Private Ryan. The bomb goes off and his ears are ringing and can't hear anything. He can see people yelling at him, getting shot and blown away, but there's nothing he can do about it. I get snapped back to reality, and as soon as I got snapped back, I could hear the gunshots. I could hear the fire engines and the sirens going off in the background. I had to get myself together, so I went to the one sanctum of truth and safety I could go to, and that was that stupid room of mine that I've made my prison for the last 4 years. I just dropped a box in the truck, turned tail, and walked my way back into my room. I looked out the window and saw cars driving by. Saw a couple of them on the curb, sort of like they lost control. Doors open, papers everywhere, blah, 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 blah. Just like in the movies, kind of. I took a few deep breaths. Breathed in deep. A couple more of those. Felt great. The hair still smelled good, even though there was char in the air from burning buildings, most likely down the road. I got in a zen-like state. I found my center. I always like to think that my mind was actually in the center, just above my stomach, below my solar plexus. I like to think that there was a furnace there. My vitality, so to speak, my soul. That's how I got to sleep. I got in a meditative state, but that's for another time. I sat there in my chair next to my computer, and I clasped my hands together. It was time for me to get with God, I guess. Me to talk to him. Didn't have to say a word, I just sat there. I continued to breathe in deep, rhythmically. Everything got really quiet. It's almost like I was inside myself, standing next to that furnace. The fire was low, and I would turn a couple sprockets and pull some levers, and that fire would get bigger. It was almost as a lot of Buddhists would say, to be hitting my Zen mode. My moment of Zen had started, I guess. I found my center. I stood up. I grabbed one of my mini backpacks that I always like to carry with me. A lot of people ask me, but it's just convenient. I hate crap in my pockets. So I grabbed one of them. I grabbed my day bag. I grabbed a couple rounds of bullets and stuff them in there. I grabbed a couple of the Wild West chilies I got from a Cabela's a few weeks back. Kangaroo and elk and blah, 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 blah. I grabbed some Cliff Bars and all sorts of things like that and stuffed them in there and got a box and grabbed the rest of the stuff. How I wish those airsoft guns that I trained on for so many years to, have fun and to get it back into shape were real guns. Nothing better than seeing a PPSH fully rock and rolled, mowing down whatever is in your way. Am I right, fellas? That's what I thought. I still had weapons and functional stuff, like a handgun, some 22s, and blah blah blah, so on and so forth. I grabbed those and distributed them in the family. I grabbed my riot gear that I had accumulated over the years for cosplay, and in the event of a bad thing, I could use it. I grabbed my tactical vest out of my closet, which weighed 1,000,000 pounds, filled up the water bag, and grabbed some bottles of water. And I made my way out of there. But first I looked back and saw my computer. I grabbed my Microsoft Zune because I absolutely loved it, and it's kept me sane all these years whenever I'd get bored. I stuffed that in the bag and even grabbed my computer and put it in another backpack for my brother Charles to carry. He helps me out quite a bit. He's my buddy. I signed in on my computer, thinking maybe I can get some more answers or play a little Minecraft before all the world goes to hell. Yeah, my priorities are set straight. I get on Facebook like I normally do, and something shocking, a little more shocking than normal. I probably had 50-some notifications. They would continue to climb, and people were sharing YouTube videos of what was going on in other states and other towns where my friends lived. They were making blogs, and they were even sharing sentiments, prayers for each other, and it's quite uplifting in a way. As I read, I could see the helplessness and the flavor of fear in everyone's writing as they sent group messages of 50-plus friends or more. Some sent more personal messages, and I sat down and read a couple, but I really didn't have time to go through them all, so I wasn't even sure if all my friends were still alive. I'm a very friend-oriented guy, being the funny guy. It was a harsh reality to know that someday I would never probably be able to see them again. Someday I could find out that they were dead, or maybe I could see them become a monster or something like that. But this was my wake-up call. My mom and dad, I called them into my room when we locked the door and shut it. We told the kids to stay low and for Charles to keep an eye out the front window. Had the kids sit in the family room and they watched some cartoons quietly. I talked to my parents and asked them what exactly was going on. My dad let my mother take it away because she was actually a deaf signer in a hospital and made a lot of friends with a lot of medical professionals. It's amazing how many things they don't tell you in public, simply because they're in debt to the pill companies or something like that. But I learned quite a bit of things to avoid in the medical world, like certain shots had mercury and blah 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 blah. Well, she was told on the news, just like everybody else, that it wasn't a big deal, it was just another epidemic that was going on somewhere else, swine flu, blah blah blah, not to take it serious. That first week, nobody took it serious because it wasn't over here, it was over there, and as long as it was over there, we were fine. Kind of a World War II thought process, as long as it's over there, we're okay. Well, apparently, someone sneezed in an airport. It got on some people, and being in a pressurized cabin, floating 30,000 feet above, sea level, in a plane, where no fresh air was being circulated, someone else sneezes. More of it gets spread. The air's stale in there, so it just gets around. Some of these people are from California, some from Kansas, some from Nebraska, some from Montana, Alabama, and blah, 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 blah. It started on the West Coast, in California, of course, closest to the Asian areas, and it started to spread quite a bit. By the first 2 days of the next week, there were 48 confirmed deaths from the disease. And there were 8 contamination zones in Southern California alone. Contamination zones? If you're sick, just put them in a ward in the hospital away from everybody. But entire city blocks blocked off by National Guard and CDC? I mean, it's something out of a zombie movie. Well, it couldn't be more true. Well, my mom began to tell me that we had been lied to, and that it was downplayed, that it wasn't a big deal. It turned out to be a very big deal. The doctor said that there were already 287 cases in Kansas alone where I lived, of people dying from it. They would convulse, they would foam at the mouth, and their brain would swell, causing blindness and bleeding from the capillaries in their nose and eyes. Very painful death, apparently. And then they would start to move after they were dead. Just like The Walking Dead. Just like, I mean, you can't make this up. And here I am, thinking I would be like the black guy, from Dawn of the Dead with the shotgun, the officer, the really cool one. I'd be able to deal with this really perfect, but no, I was more like Shaun and all them from Shaun of the Dead. I was oblivious and so stupid. That was the exact opposite of what I really wanted to be. Both in real world and in the world that I've been thrust into now. My mom explained that it was going everywhere. Since she was a sickly person, she had to get the heck out of there. A lot of her friends were doctors and were worried about themselves and her. And told her not to come in for a few days. And, well, she got a call just a couple hours before that the epidemic had spread and that the hospital got overrun by these things. To top it off, gang marauders and those kind of things attacked the hospital and stole a bunch of stuff and shot a lot of people. It was a big gunfight between the National Guard and the police and all these people trying to get medicine frantically. It's like a bunch of rats escaping a sinking ship. They wanted to grab as much as they could before they jumped into the abyss. Apparently, she was told to pack up her stuff about 3 a.m. last night. Why did she let us sleep? Why didn't we know about this earlier? I started to get taken back by it, and I was getting upset. But she told me that hearing news like that makes you think. You see, she and my dad were in the military. They were both master sergeants in the Air Force, and they were taught to be disciplined. And that calm under fire, I mean, even in the Air Force, or what was known as the Chair Force, that was impressive. I felt like an idiot for getting so upset so quickly. But she told us everything would be okay. As long as we didn't get bit, as long as we didn't get any of the fluid on us, blah, 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 blah. Just like in the stories. Of course, I had my riot gear, so I was safe, but I was worried about my family. And then I remembered an idea I had. My dad was a carpet layer, so we always had a little bit of carpet in the house, extra. I took a box cutter and sliced it up and started wrapping it around the kids' arms with tape or some Velcro, making them armor for their legs and arms. I even made some for my mother and gave her one of my extra flak vests. I even had some vests that could stop biting and blah blah blah, making us a little more safe. Well, that's when things started to get really bad. As we were loading the truck and me and my dad had to get to the front of the cab, we had to get outside the front door and there were a couple on the lawn. I told my dad not to fire, and I took one out with my kukri and my buck knife. I cut his leg, and then as he dropped, I stabbed him in the head. It was really cool, like a 300 moment. The other one came up on me, and I threw the kukri as hard as I could. It stuck him in the chest. He got taken back a little bit, and blood spurted out, but he kept coming, like a juggernaut. I took my other knife and put it through his head. Drove him all the way to the ground, and that blood got on my shirt. I felt like a savage, and I wanted to dig that knife as deep as I could. How dare this thing take my comfort away? How dare this thing change my life and throw me into a situation like this, I thought. My dad grabbed me by the pull bar in the back of my vest and told me to get myself together. He got in the truck, and he was looking at how much gas we had, and we had plenty enough to get to where we were going. And that's when more stuff started to happen.